Hello, Wembley. What a day for a throat infection. Can I just say before I start, a massive thank you to everyone that's bought the record and donated to Gaza. Much appreciated, thank you kindly. Yeah, give yourself a round of applause, why not, eh? It's a song called The Island. I'm sunning up and I'm closing down. Shutters dragged down to the ground. I'm boarded up and painted white. Graffiti covers up the sides of life and take my hand. Just feel love and feel loved. Take my hand. Feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. These bright new lights jump to your grave. And fingerprints will still remain. Well, once you stood so tall and proud, the strongest gales can't drag you down to ground and take my hand. Just feel love and feel loved. Take my hand. Just feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. Be at, don't just speak at. Be at, don't just feel at. Be at, don't just speak at. Be at, don't just feel at. And you cannot be replaced. And you cannot be replaced. Erased out. Take my hand. Just feel love and feel loved. Take my hand. Feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. Feel love and feel loved. Thank you kindly. Cheers.
Oh, cheers, Gaza. You know that boy. He's not a boy. He's a man, but he's my boy. He was offered a lot of money to be supported to become a big pro, and the condition was he distanced himself from me and what I'm saying, and preferably changed his name. And off was the second thing he told them. Hey, fantastic. And what a freaking talent. Now, I'm gonna bring this down to today, what's bloody happening now. So we sort out the wheat from the chaff and all this massive things that happens in the news every day. And when you see it connected, you can see what's going on. We've had the Icke hijack, I've talked about that, and how they feed off human energy, how they've locked us in this frequency field, frequency range, and how all these different aspects of society actually have the same master. And if you are deep enough in this web, then you can start to access what the projected future of this conspiracy is, and you can start to write novels that appear to be from imagination, but actually they're from knowledge of where the projected future is going. And when people like me have written books years and years ago, about things that are now unfolding, it's really simple. If you can access the projected agenda and nothing comes to intervene in that projected agenda, then the projected agenda is going to happen, and therefore you predicted the future. But the idea is not to predict the future, it's to alert people so we head that future off. And that's what today's about, and that's what this section's about, because I'm relating it very much to today. That changed itself just by doing my shirt. That's a miracle. Of course, George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, 1984 and Brave New World, they knew each other. Huxley taught Orwell, real name Eric Blair, French at the elite Eton College, and they were friends, and they had access to this projected agenda. And I've been saying for a long time that Brave New World and 1984 were not from the imagination, not entirely anyway, they were from knowledge of the future. And that's why they've been so prophetic, so amazingly bloody accurate in terms of how things have unfolded. Now, one of the connections they had was into a secret society called the Fabian Society, which is behind things like the creation of the British Labour Party, also very active in Australia, and was behind the London School of Economics and all that. And the Fabian Society has a logo, a wolf in sheep's clothing, which actually gives it all away, really. It doesn't mean if you're in this Fabian Society, you're into the conspiracy, but the inner core knows what's bloody going on. And if you can get into that inner core, you can predict the future, and that's what those two did. Now, it wasn't just a story, 1984, it was knowledge of the future, and that future is now, and that's why so much is coming that he talked about. Now, I'm not going to go through all this, but I will pick ones out as I go through the various subjects. This is another example of this prior knowledge of this projected agenda. This is a guy called Dr. Richard Day. In 1969, he was a Rockefeller insider. He was involved, an executive of Planned Parenthood, which started out as a eugenics operation. I'll mention that as we go through, which again is connected in ways to the Fabian Society. And he stood up in 1969 to a conference of pediatricians in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He asked them to put down their recording equipment and not take notes, because he was going to tell them how the world was going to change. Why this guy did this night, no one seems to know, but he did. And one of the doctors did take notes and did some interviews later, saying what this guy had said in 1969. What he said is the world that is unfolding and we're living in now. And he said it in 1969, which wasn't a kind of million years ahead of 1948 when 1984 came out. But I'll mention some of that as we pick what he said, as I pick out different subjects as I go through. Now, what they are doing is manipulating us to either build or accept the building of our own prison and masquerade it as freedom or protecting us from terrorism and all that shite. And it's systematic. This is a guy called Edward Bernays, and he is known as the father of what we would call today spin, social engineering, manipulating perceptions. And he said, we are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. In almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. In other words, understand how we create reality and interact with reality, and then download and program your version of reality that you want people to believe. It's systematic. And here is a wonderful example of it, Archon education. If only it was. Control perception and you control reality, and you can get them as young as you can and plant their reality from the earliest possible age. Here we are, buses waiting to take inmates to the programming centers, because that is basically what they are. And teachers overwhelmingly have no idea that that's what they are. They're pawns in the game as well. They are passing on the curriculum and teaching in ways that they are told to teach, which is programming a perception of reality by emphasizing that and ignoring or suppressing alternatives to it. Einstein said brilliantly, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. What schools, what education should be in a natural order world is not how do we get children to be what we want them to be, but how do we get the best and the potential out of every child in their unique sense and unique self. That's what education should be. But like I say, we live in an inversion, and so we get the opposite of that. What we get is this. Have you noticed how they say, these politicians, about education, we must prepare children for the workplace. In other words, we must prepare unique expressions of all that is, has been, and ever can be to be a cog in a freaking machine for the rest of their bloody life. The system should fit us. We should not fit the system. So, J.D. Rockefeller, creator of the General Education Board in 1903, he said, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. Exactly. It's what the education system's about. It's a sausage machine programming system. And this study here, I won't go into it for time, but what this study showed is the longer that children are at school, there's a massive decline in creativity as children have become less emotionally expressive, less energetic, less talkative and verbally expressive, less humorous, less imaginative, less unconventional, less lively and passionate, less perceptive, less apt to connect seemingly irrelevant things, dots, less synthesizing, and less likely to see things from a different angle. It's a program. And this is what is taught to children at school. What school teaches children: truth comes from authority, intelligence is the ability to remember and repeat, accurate memory and repetition are rewarded, non-compliance is punished, conform intellectually and socially. That's what it's about. And the very bloody fact that vast numbers of young people have been through this shit and they've come out awakened to the fact that they're not being told the truth is a wonderful example of the power of consciousness over program. School's out. Ah, the 6-week holiday. I'm out of prison. They're prisons. They're prisons. You have a few kind of years of out of prison when you're a little kid, and then you're in prison. Some bloody authority figure's telling you when you can go for a pee. You see that thing the other day in America? They're saying that children can't go to the toilet during lesson time unless they have a doctor's note. These people are mad. And talking of mad, 2-year-olds should start school, shed Ofsted teeth. What it should say is 2-year-olds should start school, says 2-year-old Ofsted chief. Bloody idiot. But what did Richard Day say to that doctors' convention in 1969? Schools will become the hub of the community. In other words, they will take more and more and more power from parents, which is exactly what's happening. Another thing he said, children will spend longer at school but learn less. That's the idea. State schools should offer 12-hour days to boost performance of poor students, says Department for Education. Preparing kids for the brave new world. And what they do is they lock people into the left side of the brain and they take them out of their individuality, their creativity, so they become cogs in the machine. For me, no child should go near school until the age of 6 or 7, and then school very, very different. They should play and they should let their imagination flow so their right brain is wide bloody open. There you go, the original PlayStation. Hey. And this bloke's going to have a few mentions in the next couple of hours, bloody hell. Bill Gates, he's involved in this thing in America called Common Core. Common Core, make everyone the bloody same. It's about imposing even more limitations on what we call learning and education, and more programming. And it's kind of the way they do it. Here's an example. They're saying in this test, change the sentence in a certain way. And the way the sentence is changed is made to read in a way that programs perception. This one, a president's job is not easy. He makes sure the country's laws are fair. Government officials' commands must be obeyed by all, and individuals' wants are less important than the nation's well-being. It's all putting this program. Now, I think an expert test taker would fill in the form something like this myself. And then we might get somewhere. Here's George Carlin. Here's a bumper sticker I'd like to see. We are proud parents of a child who has resisted his teacher's attempts to break his spirit and bend him to the will of his corporate masters. Thank you. Put that in the back window. I used to smoke pot and go to class, sneak in 10 minutes late with a bullshit excuse, slink down low behind at my desk, pray to God nobody asked me any questions. I was the best teacher ever. All right, there you go. And they're taking the piss now. What they're doing is putting people into a lifetime of debt to pay for their own frickin' programming. That's what they're doing. Look at these student bloody loans. You know, get into debt for the rest of your life, brackets control, and then you'll pay for your own bloody programming. Here you go, education. Be a good citizen, accept the program. Bollocks to that. Talking of programming, Archon Media. Control perception and you control reality. The media is owned by a tiny few corporations, which in the end are owned by the same network of families. And they're dictating and suppressing and dictating and emphasizing information and suppressing information that gives another view of reality. How to control what people think. Create or buy out major news agencies and TV channels. Only publish stories that promote your agenda. Maintain debate within a strictly limited range of views and subjects. Focus on traumatic events to keep the public traumatized and in fear. Label anyone who exposes your system and manipulation as a conspiracy theorist. And that's what they do all the bloody time. I tell you, conspiracy nuts. I love this one. For God's sake, Trevor, always you with that conspiracy stuff. I'm telling you, the man and the dog are definitely working together. And it just shows you how words, see what the media's doing, and most of them don't even realize they're bloody doing it, some do. They're telling you what you're looking at. So in Afghanistan, he's a terrorist. In Syria, he's a rebel, as long as he's not on Assad's side. In Iraq, he's a terrorist, and in Libya, he's a freedom fighter, right? They're all violent, bloody tossers. That's what they all are. And how you crop a picture. There's the picture, crop it, says one thing. Crop it, says another thing. Manipulating is so easy. And then you get this manufactured conflict, as if we've got media choice like we've got political choice. So in America, they've got this lady called Rachel Maddow of MSNBC, left, Democrat, liberal. And then you've got Bill O'Reilly, so far out, he's outside the building in the frickin' street, he is. And they argue with each other and they all that stuff. And they give you the impression, oh yeah, there's some political debate going on. But there has a common theme and there is a common denominator. All of them, when it comes to the fact that there's some kind of conspiracy going on, are absolutely in total unison that it's all madness. There can't be any conspiracies. Including these two, Jon Stewart and Bill Maher, who's supposed to be like politically incorrect and political kind of satirists. But when it ever comes to the fact that there's something strange going on and something is going on we're not being told and we should know about, they're united in the fact that all conspiracy researchers are crazy. So like Malcolm X said, if you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Don't we see that in this propaganda against the poor and people like that in our society? Let's hate them and let's love the people who are oppressing them. Exactly what he's talking about. And then we have peer pressure. You see, when you've been through this propaganda, when you've been through this programming system, then it would be bad if you just took the programming yourself and left other people. I said many years ago, the human race laughs at sheep, but we out-sheep the sheep, because at least the sheep need a frickin' sheepdog to keep each other in line. We keep each other in line. Ourselves, we don't need any bloody outside influence. So peer pressure says, if you're speaking outside the norm that we've been programmed to believe in, then we're going to give you a hard time. And people are fearful, and they keep their heads down and their mouths shut because they fear what other people think of them. I can tell you from long experience, it doesn't fricking matter. Individuality. You laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at you because they're all the bloody same. And like I say, this perception programming is systematic. This is the Frankfurt School, social engineering, came out of Frankfurt, Germany, the home city of the Rothschilds, with Rothschild frontmen and agents all over it from the start. Started out in Frankfurt, went to America, and this is what it was looking for. See if you recognize this society. The creation of racism offenses, continual change to create confusion. I stand for change. The teaching of sex to children, huge immigration to destroy national identity, and the promotion of excessive drinking, emptying of churches, undermining any form of social cohesion, that means, I suggest. Legal system with bias against victims of crime, dependency on the state or state benefits, and then pulling them, gotcha. Control and dumbing down of the media, encouraging the breakdown of the family. That one, breakdown of the family, is in all of them virtually, of these social engineering documents. This is another one called Quiet Weapons for Quiet Wars. It was dated 1979. It was found in a copier, an IBM copier at a second-hand sale in 1986. And this is a document which is a manual explaining how you mass manipulate the perceptions of the population. And this is some of the things they say. See if you recognize this society. Media. Keep the adult public attention diverted away from real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Did I mention Simon Cowell? I think I mentioned him earlier, didn't I? Schools. Keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Yes. Entertainment. Keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. I did mention Simon Cowell. Work. Keep the public busy, busy, busy with no time to think, back on the farm with their other animals. And this is another list from the same document. Absolutely devastating. Keep the public ignorant and you have less public organization. What's been the theme today? Keep people in ignorance. Create preoccupations and you lower defenses. Attack the family unit and you control the education of the young. Give out less cash and more credit, and you trigger more self-indulgence and social engineering data. Encourage social conformity, and you make programming easier. Minimize protests about tax, and you maximize the input of personal economic data while minimizing enforcement problems. Stabilize consent, and you will stabilize control. Tighten control of variables like individuality, and you have greater predictability. Maximize control, and you minimize resistance to control. Collapse the currency and you destroy faith in a country and each other. So, Archon mind games. It's all a bloody mind game, and there are various techniques that are used all the time to push this agenda on by manipulating our perceptions. Order out of chaos, 33rd degree of Freemasonry, order ab chaos. Order out of chaos. Create the chaos, then offer the order out of the chaos, which is what I call problem, reaction, solution. Create the problem, get the reaction, do something, then offer the solutions to the problems you have covertly created. 9/11 led to the war on terror, multiple invasions of target countries, and Orwellian surveillance and loss of freedom at home. Problem, reaction, solution. Here's some words I put in Obama's mouth, some truth for a change. We fund and arm terrorists and then use them as an excuse to take your freedoms away. Works every time. This is how it works. So, 9/11... we have architects at the top of their profession who have joined together in large numbers to say, no way did those buildings come down as they were supposed to have come down according to the official story. The same with pilots who've got together and said, there's no way those planes were flown as they were said to have been flown by, terrorists from the Arabic world, based on learning how to fly Cessnas, or in many cases not flying Cessnas. One of their instructors said I was surprised they could drive a car. And this, I'm not going to go into 9/11, but I'm just going to pick out one thing just to show you, for anyone new to this, how this works. Just one aspect, and my goodness, I cooked for 9/11 for hours. A tissue, it all falls down. This is Building 7, also known as the Solomon Brothers building, 47 floors, and this fell not being hit by anything, and it fell in the afternoon, in the late afternoon on 9/11, and it was said that it fell because fire destabilized it, and it fell as a result of that. Well, that's the official story, but there's another story I'll come to. Now, this lady is a BBC reporter, and the picture you see is her in a live interview with a newsreader in London, in which she's saying on 9/11 that the Building 7 building has just collapsed, right? And as she's saying it's collapsed, it's still frickin' standing behind her, right? Now, what people say is, you're saying the BBC's in the conspiracy then? Well, on the inner core, yes. Most of it, no. They just don't know their arse from their frickin' elbow. I've been there. Now, what was this all about? What was this all about? When they're unfolding a scam, a manufactured terrorist event, what's running side by side is the propaganda going out in sequence with it. What they did was put a fact that had fallen out about half an hour or more before it actually did. They got out of frickin' sequence. And so it was reported before it happened. Look at this, a controlled demolition. This is Building 7, look at it. Falling in on itself. Absolute classic. And if we look at this one, just watch these red dots here when it changes, those positions. Look, there's the frickin' things going off and bringing it down. It's classic controlled demolition, which they said it was, like the towers, it was brought down by natural, if you like, things that destabilized it. Now, as I said, the official story is Building 7 fell because it was destabilized. But this guy, Laia Silverstein, some people call him Larry, but I like to keep to the truth. Laia Silverstein, he was one of the co-leaseholders of the World Trade Center, and he bought the lease just weeks before 9/11, and when he bought it, massively upped the insurance in the event of a terrorist attack. Now, this is what he said in an interview, which you can see on the internet, about the collapse of Building 7. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, we've had such a terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing is to pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and we watched the building collapse. Right, just a few little problems with that, Mr. Laia Silverstein. A, fire departments do not pull buildings. B, putting the explosives in the right place to let it fall in on itself in a controlled explosion takes weeks, sometimes months to put in there, not a few minutes, you fricking liar. You know what happened. Now, Laia Silverstein used to have breakfast every single morning, officially accepted, in a restaurant at the top of one of the Twin Towers. I think it's called the Top of the World restaurant or something. Now, can you just think what day he might have missed? Because he said his wife had got him a dermatology appointment, and he said it saved his life. No, what saved your frickin' life, darling, is you knew what was coming and you didn't give a shit. That's what saved your frickin' life. And what's that? No empathy, no remorse. Authentic personality. Attar, Muslim fanatic. According to his American girlfriend, widely quoted, he loved pork chops, used cocaine very liberally, and was anything but a Muslim fanatic. And this is Aaron Russell, award-winning film producer, and before he died, he started speaking out about the conspiracy and what he knew about it. And he told a story of meeting Nick Rockefeller. Rockefellers, Rothschilds, they're all involved in this. And how Nick Rockefeller tried to get him into the circle, recruit him. And he said this when he met Nick Rockefeller. This was around a year before 9/11. He said that Nick Rockefeller told him there would be an event that would lead to the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, to take over the oil fields and establish a base in the Middle East. Rousseau would see soldiers looking in caves in Afghanistan and Pakistan for Osama bin Laden. There would be an endless war on terror where there's no real enemy. The whole thing would be a giant hoax. The people have to be ruled, he said, and the population reduced by at least half. Plans for mass microchipping of the serfs he also talked about. That's the truth. And of course, at 9/11, they put a memorial, classic frickin' Saturn, a memorial to the victims. And then there's another version of this, which I call no problem reaction solution, where you don't need a problem that's real, you need a perception of a problem that you can use as an excuse to offer the solutions. And they are climate change caused by human activity, global warming, they are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and all that stuff. All the time we are getting no problem reaction solutions as well. And the antidote to this problem reaction solution, create the problem, get the reaction, offer the solutions to the problems you've created, is who benefits? Who benefits from me accepting the official version of this? And invariably, who will benefit is anyone that wants to take on this conspiracy, this agenda, which I'm going to describe in some detail as we go along here. Alongside problem reaction solution, there's what I call the totalitarian tiptoe, where you go to your long focused goal, but you go in steps so you don't alert too many people of the direction you're going until you're there and it's a done deal, and then it doesn't really matter. This is a classic totalitarian tiptoe, where we went from a free trade area to a centralized fascist, communist, bureaucratic dictatorship, which we have now. And it was what we have now was planned from the start. But if they'd have said that at the start, people would have been outraged. So they've done it in steps, calculated. This is Jean Monnet, a founding father of the EU, they call him, and a Rothschild frontman, in a letter to a friend, the day after I was born, in 1952. Europe's nations should be guided towards the superstate without their people understanding what is happening. This can be accomplished by successive steps, each disguised as having an economic purpose, but which will eventually and irreversibly lead to federation. It's been a stitch-up from the start, and everything else is a smokescreen. So we went from the USSR, USSR, fear, fear, to the EU SSSR. And the only difference is, really, that they got a European Parliament that gives it the coating of democracy when it's got no power at all, and the rest of it is bureaucratic dictatorship. And another totalitarian tiptoe has been the constant expansion of centralization of power around the world, to the point where long ago it was given a name, globalization. And the idea is to create interdependence between all nations, so you have a loss of independence, of running your own affairs, because you are constantly in hoc or looking to other people to do things that you can't do for yourselves. That's the idea, interdependency. And this is the structure that they want. And the whole thing is about centralizing power. The more you centralize power, clearly the fewer people have control over more and more people. You centralize more, even fewer people have control over even more people. And what happens is, the more you centralize power, the more power you have centrally to centralize even quicker. And so centralization of power goes faster and faster and faster because of that sequence. They want a world government that would dictate to every country. In fact, they want the end of countries. They want a world central bank that would dictate all global finance. They want a world single currency that would be purely electronic, no cash, for which there are massive implications for freedom. If you go into a shop now and you ask for something and you say, I'll pay with a credit card, electronic money, and they say, no, sorry, won't accept your card, you can still pay cash. When there's no cash, what that decides dictates if you can buy and what you buy and all the rest of it. They want a world army to impose the will of the world government, and that is NATO. Way back in the 1990s, I was saying, watch for NATO starting to operate outside of the North Atlantic area as it expands itself into a fully fledged world army, and look at where it is now, all over the bloody place. Microchip population. They want a microchip population connected to a computer system for which there are enormous implications. We'll get to that later. Obviously enormous implications. Under that, they want a series of unions. Not just these, they want a Middle East union and others, but these are some of them. And they're all mirrors of the European Union. And by the time you get here to nation states, and they want to break nation states up into regions, they have no power whatsoever. And the power's moving more and more into so-called democratic operations like the World Trade Organization and the World Health Organization, which are Rothschild, Rockefeller creations from the start, because they love us and they want to help us. And readers of my books over the years will see how I've been saying they want these unions all over the place, including the North American Union. And now you've got people like David Petraeus, the former head of the CIA and big military man, and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. I can't believe it when I see her. You are a politician, you make decisions, you can breathe. I can't work it out when I see her. Unbelievable. The fact that she's in high levels of politics shows how mad the world is. But what they're talking about now is introducing the North American Union. Exactly as people like me have been saying all these years. Not because we're genius, but if you know the agenda, you can predict the future for reasons I've said. And this is the virus spreading, this centralization of power. So then we come to the Archon web, because somehow they have to globally construct and organize this. And all these different elements of global society end up with the same controlling force. And the way they've structured it is like a transnational corporation. You have a transnational corporation, whatever it is, and they'll have a headquarters somewhere. And then they'll have companies and subsidiaries all over the world, and the subsidiaries will answer to the headquarters. So you'll go into the same corporate bloody restaurants wherever you are in the world, because it's dictated centrally. And this is a global corporation made up of secret societies and satanic societies, etc. You have the headquarters is actually in Europe, and then in each country they'll have a network that it's holographic, because every part of the network is a mirror of the way the central part works. So here you'll have a network, say in the United States, of families and operations and secret societies whose job it is to introduce in the United States what's dictated from there. In Britain, you'll have the same. In France, you'll have the same. In Australia, you'll have the same. And therefore, this is dictating through this structure the same agenda, which is why the same things keep unfolding all over the world about the same time. This is an important group of organizations within that structure, which was created out of a secret society called the Round Table, which was set up in Britain in the latter part of the 19th century. First head was Cecil Rhodes, a massive Rothschild frontman, plundered South Africa for them with the gold mines and the diamonds. And then this Round Table created offshoot organizations which answer to that. Council on Foreign Relations, massively involved in American foreign policy to this day. The Bilderberg Group, a lot of people will know all about that. It was this organization that created the United Nations, especially the Council on Foreign Relations. The Trilateral Commission, that's another operation out of America. And this, the Club of Rome from the 1960s, was specifically set up to use the environment and threats to the environment as excuses to transform global society. That's where ultimately global warming comes from. So you've got these organizations that seem to be independent, but they're all answering to the same masters. So the idea is that you keep the population in ignorance of all of that, so they haven't got a clue how they're being manipulated. And you hoard the knowledge in the upper echelons of this structure. Archon politics. This system, this network that I've just described, spews out the bloody leaders that we're given to choose at elections. Do you want this mask on the same face or that mask on the same face? That's what politics or political choice has been reduced to. And of course, most of them are of this archontic bloodline, or agents of this archontic bloodline, who are basically psychopaths, and thus anything bloody goes. And so these people, like I said much earlier, are here today, gone tomorrow, frontmen for this hidden hand. I like that one. All these presidents of Republican or Democrat, they answer to the same bloody masters, and that's why nothing changes. The agenda goes on. The Bush and Obama example is classic. During the Bush years, the Bush administration was controlled by a group in the shadows, some not in the shadows, they were seen, called the neocons or neoconservatives. This was widely reported in the media. The Democratic Party is controlled by a group in the shadows and some not in the shadows, which I call the democons. I put Kissinger in the democons because he's advising Obama at the moment, but he's usually over there. This is the key. At the next level, the neocons and the democons answer to the same master. And therefore, whoever is here is answering to the same master. And that's why whoever is here, the same agenda unfolds. Change, 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 change. Him on steroids. So that's how it works. And it works like that in this country. It works like that in virtually every country. And so democracy and the voice of the people is an absolute illusion. Here's Obama Bush. There you are. There's the composite. Here's the world's first face transplant of success. There you go. That's how it works. You know, when people attack people for saying what's the point in voting, they're just showing they haven't got a clue. There's no point in voting because you're voting for the same force no matter what. By not voting en masse, you're saying we've sussed it, we're not having it anymore. We're not giving you credibility by supporting a rigged system. And then people say, well, so-and-so will get in. It doesn't matter, because they're all the bloody same. And the way they do it is this pyramid system. All political parties all over the world are pyramid systems. When you enter the political party, you've got to do what the political party wants to rise through the ranks to the top, become a minister or whatever. And if you go against the policy because you have a mind of your own, and you're not just a political bloody pawn or clone, then you don't get up there. So all the people that get to the top are the ones that have done what the system wants. And so the top of the pyramids are dictating to everyone within the pyramid. Anyone that's got a mind of their own is a rebel. He can't become a minister. He can't become a member of the shadow cabinet. And in this way, ultimately, although the vast overwhelming majority of these people have no idea this is the case, the same force is dictating through all of them. If not directly, then by controlling and manipulating the system they're operating in. That's a great line, isn't it? If voting made any difference, they wouldn't let us do it. Ain't that the truth? And so you get this, the march of tyranny. What it goes is, oh, I don't like them Republicans and what they're doing, I'm voting Democrat. I don't like what their Democrats are doing, who can I vote for? Well, you've only got the I'll vote Republican. Oh, I'll vote Labour. I don't like them. I'll vote Conservative. Don't like them either. Who can I vote? I'll vote Labour. So it fricking goes on. It's an illusion. If anybody can give me any policies that take Clegg and Miliband and Cameron off the same bloody postage stamp, I'd like to bloody hear them. And then behind that, you've got the legal system, which is imposing the will of the political system. I'm a judge, and that means I do whatever the government tells me. They're not all like that, but you want something that's absolutely not going to go wrong, you put a safe man in to have the inquiry. Lord Hutton on David Kelly, I rest my case. So, don't cheat, don't lie, don't sell drugs, don't kill. The government hates competition. And when you go deeply into that, especially in America, and don't sell drugs, you find that's exactly what they're doing through their agencies. Archon Hunger Games. This is now, we're getting into the society they want us to live in and the one we're seeing unfold by the day. And it's time to stop it bloody unfolding. Of course, the Hunger Games was this movie that involved a reality TV show which was about terrible brutality. Every person for themselves, and the one standing had killed, or others had killed all the rest. And this is what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969. Violence in the media and movies will be increased to desensitize people to violence and make them feel that life is short, precarious, and brutish. It's part of the social engineering. But the reason I call it the Hunger Games Society is in that movie, the society was broken up into sectors. Each sector was responsible for certain specializations. And then and these were all in abject freaking poverty, basically. And then you had the capital, where a tiny, tiny few people lived parasitically off the efforts of the poverty-stricken masses. And that's what they want. We had the elite in the capital dictating to the masses through a vicious police state. And here we have the Hunger Games in Britain. Woman in £1 million hat makes speech about austerity. Oh, what a load of bollocks it all really is. And have you noticed, my government. Now this is the structure that they are moving towards. They want a tiny few at the top that take all the wealth, have all the control, and all the benefits. Down here, they want the masses living in abject poverty as slaves to that elite. And the elite are the archontic bloodlines, and the masses are the human target population. And to hold that status quo, they need a police state that's going to impose it. That's what's unfolding before our eyes. And this is the Hunger Games Society. And when I say the masses living in poverty, I mean the masses. Their target is not just those in poverty now. Their target is people who have a lot of money now, a lot of wealth now, who think they're doing all right now. They want the lot. If you're not part of this elite, then they want everything you've got. So you end up in the poverty-stricken masses. That's what's happening. And one of the great excuses for it, and engine rooms for it, is this total bollocks about human-caused climate change. Violin music, anyone? Here he is, Al Gore. Bloody hell, if he ever told the truth, he would genetically self-destruct. The big lie of Big Al. It's a scam, and it's a scam to change the nature of human society, justified by saving the planet, which these buggers are destroying. And look, it's become the new red in terms of communism. It has. Save the planet, be a slave. This is the head of the Green Party. Get rid of any cabinet ministers or senior governmental advisors who refuse to accept the scientific consensus on climate change, or who won't take the risks to the UK seriously. Well, what if they don't take you seriously, darling? How about that? And then you have this guy, chairman of the Common Science and Technology Committee. Frightening that he is, but let's hear what he's got to say. Ministers who question the majority view among scientists about climate change should shut up. The BBC give less airtime to climate skeptics, and its editors should seek special clearance to interview them. Appearances on radio and television by climate skeptics should be accompanied by a health warning or health warnings. And then you have this lady, Professor Kari Norgard of Oregon University. Cultural resistance to accepting the premise that humans are responsible for climate change must be recognized and treated as an aberrant sociological behavior. This is where we're going, to shut up those exposing the lie. Like this guy, how green zealots gagged professor who dared to question global warming. No A-level for climate change denier. My son Jamie was told by his teacher when he was at school that if he said in his exam that he didn't agree with global warming caused by human activity, and he said so, he would not pass. That's the society that we frickin' live in. The Global Warming Survival Handbook by David de Rothschild. And all these blokes, they wheel these people out whenever they want a concert to bloody program the masses. Bollocks begets bollocks. Once you have the fact that human activity is not changing the climate in the way they say, then everything that comes from that must be bollocks in things that are done on the basis that they are. And it is. So, here are the greenhouse gases, the major ones. You would think that CO2, carbon dioxide, is here. You got to, the propaganda, it has to be. No, this is it. And the green bit is the only part that is from human activity. The rest is natural, and without carbon dioxide, we would not have a planet that we do. And that is water vapor and clouds. So we must tax and ban condensation. There we go. Now, this is Professor Leslie Woodcock, Empress Professor, University of Manchester, this great list of things that he's been responsible for. And he said this: water is a much more powerful greenhouse gas, and there is 20 times more of it in our atmosphere, around 1% of the atmosphere, whereas CO2 is only 0.04%. Carbon dioxide has been made out to be some kind of toxic gas, but the truth is it's the gas of life, inversion. We breathe it out, plants breathe it in, and it's not caused by us. Global warming is nonsense. And then there's this guy in Australia, I won't read it all, but the major part that he said, he used to be massively, yes, it's all true, and then realized it wasn't. And he says here, the theory was based on a guess that was proved false by empirical evidence during the 1990s, but the gravy train was too big with too many jobs, industries, trading profits, political careers, and the possibility of world government and total control riding on the outcome. Exactly. Now, here's the hockey stick. It just shows that suddenly, whoa, it's gone through the roof. We're all gonna die, start swimming. But what they did to create that hockey stick and that perception deception is they missed this off, the medieval warm period. All that time ago, 1000 AD forward, when the temperatures were much warmer than they are today. Where was the human created carbon dioxide then? And then after the medieval warm period, they went into the Little Ice Age through here up to the 1900s. And it was so cold, they had Little Ice Age frost fairs on the Thames. Now, when they say to you, oh, this is the warmest year since records began, it's good to ask, well, when did records begin? And loads of them started during the Little Ice Age, which gives a massively distorted view of comparison. This is the truth. From 1997 to 2012, and it's gone on now to 2014, temperatures did not rise. That's why global warming became climate change in the propaganda. Global warming, it goes up, it goes down. That's what it's always done. 7 years ago, Big Al said the ice cap is falling off a cliff. It could be completely gone in the summer in as little as 7 years from now. We are 7 years from then, and it's just increased by 43 frickin' %. And the scientists say that the greater ice is caused by global warming. Yeah, but this guy's bettered it. This guy's bettered it. French President Hollande, ISIS terror caused by global warming. Did you know the moon is made from fromage? And this comes from CERN. They found that there was virtually a perfect correlation between climate change and the penetration of cosmic rays into Earth's atmosphere throughout history. In other words, you can't be saying temperature is affected by the sun. That is crazy. Have you noticed they never mention the sun? Never mention it. It's CO2. It's the frickin' sun. Goes through cycles. That's why it goes up and down. And here's the Club of Rome, created in this network to use the environment to transform global society. Here's one of its founders, quoted in his own publication in 1991, "In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill." Thank you. Over and out. Here's Bill, one of the major in America and globally, one of the proponents of climate change. It's a terrible problem and it absolutely needs to be solved. It deserves to be a huge priority. Why don't you go download something, mate? Hey? And look, here we go. It's got into such fine detail now that the European Union is targeting certain hairdryers and lawnmowers to stop global warming. And we're back here, Nikola Tesla. All these people who are pushing global warming, the same people suppressing free energy technology by accessing the electric power that is all around us. So, I've put a few truth words into Gore's mouth here. Makes a change. He must be feeling very strange. I know it sounds strange to push global warming when there isn't any, but it's not about saving the planet. It's an excuse to transform global society. Thank you. Which brings us to this, AWAKEN Agenda 21. This is the agenda for the 21st century, hence its name. And it is the plan to introduce that Hunger Games society under the name Agenda 21. Agenda 21, these are from its own documents of various kinds. Agenda 21 involves this: an end to national sovereignty, many, many sources of that. State planning and management of all land resources, ecosystems, deserts, forests, mountains, oceans, and fresh water, agriculture, rural development, biotechnology, and ensuring equity, i.e. equal slavery. The state to define the role of business and financial resources. Abolition of private property, it's not sustainable, except when they have it. Restructuring the family unit, everywhere you see that. Children raised by the state, straight out of Brave New World. People told what their job will be. Major restrictions on movement. Creation of human settlement zones. Get to them as we go along. Mass resettlement of people who are forced to vacate land where they currently live. Dumbing down education, mass global depopulation in pursuit of all of the above. And it was introduced at the Environmental Earth Summit in 1992, headed by this guy, Maurice Strong, an oil billionaire. I think he's now on the run in China, last I heard. And he said, isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring that about? This is using the environment to deindustrialize the world and create this Hunger Games society. And of course, he's a friend of Big Al, Big Lie, Big Al. Now, if anyone thinks that's, extreme, this is a map of America as desired and projected by the Biosphere Programs and World Heritage Program. And whenever you see diversity or sustainability or Agenda 21, they're just into connecting interchangeable terms. So the red on this map of America is designed to be core reserves and corridors with little to no human use. Can you imagine the numbers of people to be removed to make that possible? Then you've got all the yellow bits, buffer zones, highly regulated use. And normal use are just the green bits. Look at it across America, 300 odd million people. And the idea is to make vast, vast areas of land, ban it from human use and human activity on the basis of saving the environment, when what it is taking it all over for the less than 1%. And what they're doing with Agenda 21 is they're projecting it and promoting it as it being local. So you have all these different local Agenda 21s. This is one on the bloody Isle of Wight. Now they know what it's bloody all about. But actually behind all this individual, it's individual communities. Behind all that is the centralization of the whole Agenda 21 agenda through the United Nations. And it's a Trojan horse to introduce that Hunger Games society. And they're doing it through this structure I talked about, through into each community, into each country. And this is a word to watch for. This is a buzzword of Agenda 21, reset or reboot. Resetting society means transformation to Agenda 21. So, if you're going to bring this about, not just in America, but around the world, then you've got to start doing it, and you've got to start having ways of doing it. Now, the first one is take their money, and when you've taken their money, they've got no choice but to go where you want anyway. And so we have AWAKEN money. And of course, bankers invariably certainly the major ones, are psychopaths. They have no empathy, they have no remorse for what they do to people, and they destroy lives. Here you go. I'm a psychopath and I run a bank. Oops, I repeat myself. So this is what they're doing. Type in £1 million. Congratulations, you just created £1 million just like a bank does. Crazy, of course it is. What we're doing, we're being deluged and submerged in debt on money that does not exist, never has existed, and never will exist, called credit. They're lending us money that doesn't exist and charging us interest on it. And when we can't pay it back because the economy's gone through no fault of our own, they come and take the wealth that does exist, like our house and our business or land. This is the real value of fiat money. Fiat money is simply money that a government has said has value and can be used as a currency of exchange. It has to be backed by nothing. It's just an IOU. That's all it is. You look on the English money, it says, I promise to pay the bearer. Why are you promising to pay me? You've just given me the money. It's an IO frickin' you, that's why. And so let's ask the audience, shall we? If all the money is created out of debt and lent, and that's the point, all our money, a whole currency, is created from the start as an interest-bearing debt. Why? Why aren't governments creating their own money interest-free? Why? Because governments are controlled by the same network that controls the banks. If all money is created out of debt and lent out with the application of interest, how can we pay it off? A, print more money. B, tax the poor. C, give banks bailouts. D, in the end, you can't. It's impossible. And this is why it's impossible. When you go into a bank and you lend, say, 50 grand, they type into your account 50 grand. It doesn't exist. It's just the fact that they can lend 10 times and, in fact, more to people that want to borrow money, 10 times more than they actually have on deposit. It's called fractional reserve lending. You only need a bit and you can lend a lot. This is why it's a scam. Anyway, you go in and you want to borrow 50 grand and they type into your account 50 grand. Fine. But you're not paying back 50 grand. You're paying 50 grand plus interest. And the interest is never created, just the principal. Thus, there is never, ever, ever enough money, real or what, in circulation to pay back all the debt and all the interest on the debt. Thus, people losing their homes, their businesses, their lives is built into the system on purpose. And when there's an expansion of the economy, all that stuff is hidden by Peter paying Paul. But when there's a contraction and money's taken out of circulation, it becomes crystal clear there ain't enough money in circulation to pay back all the debt and the interest on the debt. And what happens then? They take the wealth that does exist for money that has never existed. That's how it bloody works. Give a man a gun and he can rob a bank. Give a man a bank and he can rob the bloody world. And that's what they've frickin' done. The Rothschilds, we are the banking system. When you control the system, it doesn't matter if this bank goes down or whatever, you control the system. When you control the World Cup, it doesn't matter who's in the final because you control whoever wins, you still control the tournament, you still control the game. Nathan Rothschild, the guy that built up the Rothschild Empire in Britain. I care not what puppet is placed on the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. When we have one world electronic currency, whoever controls that controls the world. This is one guy who stands up to the banks, Bernie Sanders, senator in America. Congress doesn't regulate banks, banks regulate Congress. Ain't that the truth? That's how it works in this country too. Now, because you have the web, and within that web, you have the central banks like the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve. You have the European Central Bank. You control the governments. You control the reporting of your activities. You control the entire game. And so you turn the population into debt slaves who are beholding to you, who have lent them nothing. Financial crash, what this was systematically brought about to do was transfer, as it did, phenomenal amounts of wealth from the masses to the few, where money that the masses have to take responsibility for was hosed and poured at the banks and just went missing, most of the bloody lot of it did. And so in that period, while the people were being crushed because the government said, oh, we've lent all this money, we're running out of money, we've got to have an austerity program. So the masses who took responsibility for the money given to the banks are now in an austerity program because of the money given to the banks. And the idea is to crush people, to control them. In America, in Britain rather, I don't know what the time is, it's bloody more now probably. 1.26 trillion in debt, that's just a recent figure, it's probably more now. In America, 17.6 trillion in debt. They'll never pay the bugger back, and thus they are in hock under control of those who have lent the money. And what they're doing with America, I've been saying it for decades, is they're destroying America so that America can be absorbed into this global system that I've just described. The United States is being financially dismantled step by step to come under the jackboot of the global government. And so when you look at this Hunger Games structure that we're moving towards, but we can stop it, we will stop it. The idea is to pull all the people that are not there into this mass of global poverty and therefore control. And that's why there is a war against the middle classes all over the world. The middle classes being those that are doing kind of all right. They're not in real bad straits, they're doing all right. They don't want, and some of them are doing really, really more than all right. But if they're not part of the 1%, they want them as well. And that's why they're targeting all over the world what we term the middle classes in moving jobs abroad. And this is what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969. He said there's coming the curtailment of US industrial preeminence. This is exactly what's happened. Now, talking about pulling everyone into the Hunger Games society that isn't part of the elite few, that's what this was about. They're now calling them bail-ins. They've transferred vast amounts of money through governments from the masses to the elite, but there's still people who are doing okay. Well, they want them. So the idea of Cyprus was not to bail out the banks through governments, but to take money directly from the bank accounts of the banks, the people with accounts in the banks, and take that money. And a lot of people with a lot of money in those banks lost virtually all of it through this bail-in. And now they're saying all future banks will be bailed out by a bail-in. And there are examples after examples now of how they're changing the laws so that they can come straight into the bank accounts of people and just take it. Here's just a few. Taxman's plan for covert raids on family bank accounts is branded illegal, extremely worrying, and excessive. Plans could result in money being taken from innocent families, say experts. That's the frickin' idea. Belgian government applies retroactive tax and removes funds from citizens' bank accounts. Australian pensioners and savers have bank accounts raided by government. This is what is happening. And it's to pull in those people that are doing all right into the poverty-stricken masses of the Hunger Games society. Bail out, bail in, take your tax, I want all your money, all of it. That's the idea. So I say to people, if you think you're doing all right and your job's still paying well and you've got a big house and all that stuff, well, okay, look the other way. Ignore the people in terrible straits. Say it's not my problem. But remember that it will be your problem because they want you as well. Now, do you want to stand up alongside those in dire straits now, in unity, or do you want them picked off so they can come along eventually and pick you off? That's the idea. Talking to the Hunger Games Society, look at it now. US incomes, look at it, whoosh. UK property wealth, whoosh. It's happening. The richest 400 in the world worth more than the bottom, richest 400 in the US worth more than the bottom 95% combined. And these people have massively increased their wealth during the recession, as they were meant to do. $1 billion. If you spent $10,000 a day, it would take more than 300 years to run out. And look at them. All those billions. Bill Gates, 76 billion at a rate of $17,000 a minute. And at the same time, this is happening. Inversion. We're seeing the elite and we're seeing the gathering masses. People can be left to this. Well, that grotesque amount of wealth they'll reincarnate 100 times to spend. Because money is power in this system. And putting spikes to stop homeless people sleeping. What is that? No empathy, no remorse. Archontic mind. Basic humanity against the law, laws against feeding the homeless in America. And of course, once you're in big financial trouble, then this is the idea of the Hunger Games Society, then they can start telling you what you're going to do to get the little bit of money you're going to get. So, long-term jobless to scrub memorials and historic monuments to keep benefits. This is where we're going, systematically. And these United States Federal Reserve, the World Bank, the IMF, the European Central Bank, they're all assets of the Rothschild-centered system. And they're all following that same agenda. This is a great line. They take our skills, they take our labor, they take our knowledge, they take our pride, they take our talent, they take our best ideas, they take our time, they take our lives. In the end, they take our jobs. These makers then turn around and call us takers. What is a better way of describing how the Gnostics describe the archons? Feeding off human creativity. Parasites. Parasites. Here you go. What are you going to be when you grow up, banker? You, banker. There you go. And the more suffering there is through finance, the more energy there is to feed off. And then you've got these, before I leave finance, these transatlantic and various groupings called trade groupings. And what they're doing is taking control of people's lives from even governments and giving it to corporations. One of the most controversial provisions of the talks in one of these trade groupings includes new corporate empowerment language insisted upon by the US government, which would allow foreign companies to challenge laws or regulations in a privately run international court. Here's the new government as it's planned to be. And the cashless society, finally on money. The cashless society, people who've read my books will know I've been talking about this, writing about this since the early 1990s. The idea of bringing about a cashless society so you can control, in the way I've described, control whether people buy, what they buy, if they buy. And of course, now the cashless society is unfolding so fast. In places like Israel, I understand, and Sweden, they're almost cashless already. Now, get the people off the land, force them off. Okay, force them off. And so what they're doing, they're changing the laws and they're making economic changes which make it impossible for those that are not of the elite to stay on the land because they want them all in human settlement zones, which I'm coming to. So Obama signed this rural council operation, which makes rural life impossible. US Department of Agriculture to purchase submachine guns. This is apparent madness, but it's not, because these are agencies increasingly violent to remove people not of the elite from the land under Agenda 21. They are attacking organic and small farmers all over the place and making life impossible, throwing them in jail for things they haven't frickin' done. And the idea is to remove those off the land so Food Incorporated, the corporations, not least people like Monsanto, can control the food chain. The worldwide destruction of the family farm, Wall Street's unprecedented land grab, Agenda 21. EU Commission to Irish government, tax farmland, what is behind it? Agenda 21. Right to farm being stripped from Americans, Michigan to criminalize small family farms with chickens, goats, honeybees, and more. Bizarre, why is Michigan government trying to derail Detroit area's urban farming movement? Agenda 21. Battle for the California desert, why is the government driving folks off the land? Agenda 21. The Forest Service this week has said that the media needs a photographic permit in wilderness areas, alarming First Amendment advocates. Demanding permits to take pictures in wilderness areas is the first step of denying any access whatsoever into wilderness areas, which is exactly the plan of Agenda 21. And they're destroying community food gardens. This is in Canada. And what they're doing, they're changing the zoning laws to say you can't grow food there, even though people are hungry and they're communally growing to help each other out. Allotments are going under. Food and Drug Administration in America to ban organic farming, ? They're doing these raids on organic farming communities to bring about the end and Agenda 21. And this is Dr. Richard Day, again, 1969. Growing food will be banned by saying it isn't safe, and the state and corporations will control all food production. The supply and distribution of food will be monitored so that no one can give food to a fugitive of the system. That's what's unfolding. In 1913, corn is 100% farmer-owned. 2013, corn is 95% owned by corporations, and 90% in the United States is genetically modified. Kissinger, control oil and you control nations, control food and you control the people. This is what it's about. And the same is happening to water, again under Agenda 21. These corporations are buying up all the water sources. This fricking idiot, the CEO of Nestle, is saying water is not a human right. Excuse me, mate, if you don't get access to it, you fricking die. Oh, that's what you want. Sorry, I gotcha. Water is not a human right and should be privatized. US court ends private property rights, all water to be controlled by government. See, all over the world, because of this global network, it's unfolding. Control the water and you control the people. And so what they're doing under Agenda 21, and America is the primest example, is they're just not funding rural communities. They're not funding rural schools. They're not mending rural roads. They're actually digging up a lot of rural roads, to make life impossible, to get people off the land. America 2050 is an organization funded by the Rockefellers. It's a Rockefeller Front organization. The Agenda 21 depopulation of rural areas has begun. It's everywhere. Irish councils plan trying to strip people of right to live in the countryside. And you know when this guy came in, bloody Blair Mark II, never said it in the election campaign, suddenly announced he's going to sell off all the forests. Do you remember that? Going to sell off all the forests. What do you mean? You never mentioned that. That was Agenda 21. And he was stopped from doing it en masse because of the opposition. Not from the Green Party, by the way, which is shocking. Get them off the land, weather control. Now, this is a big area where people get scammed because they don't think that is possible, manipulating the weather to create extremes of weather to get people into situations that remove them from the land. But actually, Dr. Richard Day was actually a weather manipulator during the Second World War. Get them off the land. And here he is again. Here's Bill. He's involved in the Fund for what is Climate Change and Energy Research. What it is manipulating the climate, justified by saving the world from climate change. But what it is manipulating the weather. And it's been going on. People say it's not possible. Of course it's possible. It's happening. It goes way back. Even a BBC radio documentary exposed a few years ago that the Lynmouth flood in 1952, which killed people and devastated that village in Devon, was actually created by the RAF, who were doing an operation called Operation Cumulus, also known as Operation Witch Doctor, in which they were putting sulfur into the atmosphere above this, in this area, And actually, people before the massive flood say they kind of tasted and smelt sulfur in the air. And what it did was create an enormous rainstorm, which created the flood, which created the Lynmouth disaster, 1952. This is 1996, an official US Air Force document describing the artificial creation of floods, hurricanes, droughts, and earthquakes. And it continues, weather modification will become a part of domestic and international security and could be done unilaterally. It could have offensive or defensive applications and even be used for deterrence purposes. The ability to generate precipitation, fog, and storms on Earth or to modify space weather and the production of artificial weather are all part of an integrated set of military technologies. They are manipulating the weather like crazy. And one of the ways they do it is this operation in Alaska called HAARP, which fires high-power radio waves into the ionosphere and has weather effects. But it's not just HAARP. They're building these things around the world now. And the chemtrails are interconnected with that. There you go. Don't worry, just a lot of flying tonight. All these chemtrails, it's just your imagination. And the reason they link into weather control is this, from a document or an article. Dispersed metallic particles such as aluminium, barium, and strontium, the main chemtrail ingredients, may increase the atmosphere's conductivity and therefore enhance HAARP's weather modification performance. That's just one reason for them. There are many others too. Now, we've had these extremes of weather, floods and in America, catastrophic for small farms and even less than small farms in America. Droughts. And the explanation of them is the jet stream is acting strangely. This is the main kind of weather pattern that comes across America and across Britain into Europe. This guy, Bernard Eastland, who wrote many of the patents for the HAARP project, said that HAARP can steer the jet stream. And like I say, when we have these extremes of weather, which are devastating for farmers and people in countryside areas, they say it's because the jet stream has moved from where it normally is, and thus they create these weather extremes. And this is what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969. The weather will be modified and used as a weapon of war to create drought or famine. This is in Britain. This is in America. Here's a story from very recently. Farmer who lost 800 acres of land during last winter's flood is refused compensation after he was told the aerial picture of devastation was insufficient bloody evidence. And then in America, in recent years, they've had catastrophic droughts. It's a catastrophic one and then some in California at the moment and through this summer. This is the one in 2012. That's the area of extreme drought. And here's a story from this week. 14 California communities now on verge of having no water. Mass migration out of California seems imminent. And it's a doddle to keep the rain away, and it's a doddle to make it come in massive quantities. And what is happening as these people are forced off the land through all these things? The major corporations are buying up that land in massive, massive quantities. Get them off the land, fracking. Well, amazing. A red flag and a flashing red light should always start when something comes out of nowhere and it's suddenly everywhere. Suddenly, fracking, what's happening? It's every bloody where. Countries all over the world are having fracking protests. Where did that come from? Because it's the agenda pressing the button for this stage called fracking. Here we go. Farmers fear fracking could spell financial ruin. They're now letting people in this country drill under their bloody homes, put whatever they like under their bloody homes without any oversight. And what the fracking is, I mean, you know, you say, look, I'm sure you didn't get that right. Explain it to me again, because that's madness, okay? That's madness, right? So just explain it again. Well, what they're doing is they're forcing at high power water full of hundreds of chemicals into the ground. They're breaking up the structure to get to this stuff they want, this gas or whatever, shale gas. And they're causing earthquakes because they're breaking up the structure. And then all these chemicals are going into the groundwater supply, and we're supposed to frickin' drink it. That is the astonishing story of fracking. And when governments, in the face of such unbelievable nonsense, still push on with it, it's the agenda. 630 chemicals they're putting in this stuff, going into the groundwater supplies. Look at it. And when you can't get access to clean water, what do? You have to leave the land to find a place where you can get access to clean water. Control the water and you control the people. And here's some report states fracking can cause earthquakes on faults tens of miles from the fracking boreholes. Look at this. This is Oklahoma, 2009, 38 earthquakes. 2014, 780 and counting. Oh, fracking's nothing to do with it. Yeah, but you started fracking here. But what is it doing, this fracking? It's driving people off the land, and it's creating an Archon world of death, destruction, and devastation. So, they force people off the land. Where are they going to put them? This is Agenda 21, human settlement zones. As you saw, it's in their own documents. What they want to do is concentrate the masses in high-rise, ultra tiny boxes where they can be under surveillance 24/7. And it's happening now. Like I say, this is the structure they want, and they want a world of regions. They want to break up countries into regions. And this Rockefeller organization, America 2050, this is when they want all the stuff finished and in, is breaking up in their wish list America into mega regions, exactly in line with this Hunger Games movie map. And the European Union is doing the same. This is a map of regions they are suggesting should be created in Europe as countries cease to be. And in these mega regions, they want mega cities where, like I say, this is David Dees, a great political artist out of America. And this image really sums up what they want. They want an end to people having access to cars who aren't in the elite. Now, this is what they mean. Recently, last few years, when Mayor Bloomberg was mayor of New York, they started a project to build 165,000 units for people in New York. And these yellow lines are the size of the units. They are 10 feet by 30. And this is absolutely in line with Agenda 21. This is the 165,000 units, while elite, has massive properties all over the world. Here, Agenda 21, city officials, developers recommend coffin apartments for middle class. Coming everywhere. Rabbit Hutch Britain, growing health concerns as UK sets record for smallest properties in Europe. They're moving towards it. Soaring house prices will kill off middle class within 30 years, Britain to be left with tiny elite and sprawling proletariat. Abolition of private property. They also want to take people out of cars by making it too expensive for the masses to have cars and run cars. And like I say, it's all being coordinated through this network. Now, if you look at the Hunger Games movie, the mode of transport was high-speed rail. And what they want in this Hunger Games society is the main source of transport to be railways and high-speed rail, because it's easier to control people that way. And it's interesting that if you look at this mega region, mega cities map of America 2050, since the invention of the airplane, American railways have been going down and down and down and down. They've just been left to rot, basically. And then suddenly, in the last few years under Obama, enormous amounts of investment have been made into building high-speed railways across America. And when you take that map and then you put the high-speed rail map of America and the the list of years they want to introduce it, it absolutely fits over that mega regions, mega cities map. This is what we're seeing in this country and throughout Europe, the building of these high-speed rail systems in line with Agenda 21. And I know for an absolute fact that some of the people who are doing it under being railway executives actually work for NATO. So then is Archon food. All these things are connected. I'm connecting dots here. All these different things which people oppose and protest against are actually all different expressions of the same conspiracy. There is a war on the human body. There's a war on human health. Now, the Fabian Society was called the Fabian Society after a Roman general called Fabius. And his claim to fame was never to engage in a battle which could lead to a win or a loss, which could be decisive. His way of doing it was to weaken the enemy over a long period of time until they were so weak that you just walked in. This is what is happening in terms of human health and many other things. They are systematically weakening the target population so we become so weak that they just walk in and do what they like. And fundamental to that is the war on human health. Here we go, weapon of mass destruction. GMO, genetically modified food designed to genetically modify us. This guy, David Suzuki, a geneticist, any politician or scientist who tells you that these GMO products are safe is either very stupid or lying. Most of the food chain now in America, overwhelming majority of the food chain in America is infested with GMO, and they're trying to do everything they can to bring it in Europe by stages. And this is how they do it. Here he is, Michael Taylor, an executive of Monsanto who moves over to be the food czar for Obama. And he's moved through that revolving door a number of times. What he does, he works for Monsanto and then he goes into government. He should be policing Monsanto, but what he's doing is introducing Monsanto's agenda in government. Here's Bill again. 500,000 shares in Monsanto. He owns the most evil company on earth. And he says he wants to make the world a better place. I don't believe you. This is the GMO scam. You will eat what we tell you to eat. Got it. This is why all this systematic contamination is going on. And here we're dealing with a force that I was talking about through the day that is about mutating the species so we decode reality in a different way. And all these GMO products, they need these poisons to go with them. And what happens next? You eat it. And it's part of this war on the human organism, the human health, to weaken it. I mean, you would think on the face of it that it's madness to do this. But there's method in the madness of those who know why it's being done. Monsanto's darkest secret, Roundup's effect on the fetus. Get the baby before it's even born. Look at this. Paint thinner in children's cereal exposed. It's bloody madness, unless you know the agenda and what it's designed to do. Here are McDonald's, shit in any bloody language. There you go. All this fast food is part of this war on the human organism. And junk food can be as addictive as heroin, and this is why. The receptors of the cells that accept heroin and cocaine and all that stuff also are receptors of the shite chemicals and concoctions that come out of shite chemically infested food, and therefore the body can become addicted to those chemicals. So what they're doing, the GMO, is they're forcing out of existence opposition to GMO so everything can be genetically modified. Genetically modifying the planet, that's what they're doing. And the reason that you get this war again on food supplements and alternative ways of giving nutrition to the body, which they're not getting from the food. The reason there's a war on all that and regulation on all that is to stop people having any other way of overcoming this war on the human body to get nutrition from another source. Archon, Big Pharma, this goes on from there, same thing. You look at these big pharma companies, they lock into the same bloody network. Vaccines. If you want access to the body to devastate the human immune system from an early age, so you make children for life open to things their immune system in a healthy state would suss, then vaccines are your dream come true. The immune system, when it's strong, you're healthy. When it's weak, you're ill. When it's knackered, you're dead. And this is the focal point of the war on the human organism, a war on the human immune system. All these vaccinations that kids have before the age of 6, because it's systematically targeting the health of young people, so they'll never be healthy for the rest of their lives, thus easy to control. Vaccine-induced immune overload now affects the majority of US children. Big Pharma wants pregnant women to be vaccinated. Yeah, 2 for 1. This is what you get when you vaccinate kids and anybody. Mercury, antifreeze, phenol, carbolic acid in other words, animal blood, animal viruses, and formaldehyde. They embalm dead people with that. Just a partial list, and here's Billy, one of the major promoters and funders of the mass vaccination of the so-called developing world. India holds Bill Gates accountable for his vaccine crimes. The big pharma medicine is a crime scene. And they're trying to destroy any alternative to it. And this is the human body in its prime form. It's an energetic field, an information field. When there's a problem, a distortion in the field, it comes through to the hologram as dis-ease, distortion, dis-ease, illness. So if you are going to sort out the problem in the hologram, you need to sort out the imbalance in the energetic field from which the hologram is projected. Doing anything else is merely to treat the symptoms, not the cause. And Big Pharma treats the symptoms, while alternative medicine in its true sense, cutting edge, treats the cause. And that again is why alternative practitioners are under so much attack from the system. And then there's the big pharma war on the mind, particularly of children. Here's an antidepressant. One of the side effects may include suicidal thoughts. Childhood is not a mental disorder, but you'd increasingly think it was. This is the guy that invented attention deficit disorder, and before he died, he said it was a prime example of a fictitious disease. They're pouring all these drugs down kids, these psychological drugs, because of something that doesn't exist. Attention deficit disorder. I had attention deficit disorder. It was called being freaking bored to tears in classrooms every day. Bombshell, 1 in 13 US children take psychiatric drugs. 10,000 American toddlers now taking amphetamine-based ADHD drugs, which doesn't exist. And now they've made daydreaming and psychological illness. They're calling it sluggish cognitive tempo. See, you're boring me frickin' rigid. It's a disease to drug more children. The drug industry has come up with yet another phony mental illness that says that It afflicts as much as 2 million children. SCT, and one of the symptoms, they say, is daydreaming. Daydreaming is to let the imagination go where it wants to go, into realms beyond time and space. And if anyone daydreams, good frickin' luck to them. I want my kids and grandchildren to frickin' daydream. Daydream. Oh, when I was at school, they were all saying, Ike, stop daydreaming. I thought, I bloody like daydreaming. Leave me alone. And so you have this chemical war on children, because the children of today are the adults tomorrow, when this Agenda 21 is supposed to be fully flying. And here we go. Aldous Huxley, 1961. There will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing dictatorship without tears, so to speak, producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so that people will in fact have their own liberties taken away from them, but rather enjoy it, because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. This is where we're going, and we need to be aware of it. Then, the war on the human body, Archon toxic humans. Not satisfied with toxifying us, poisoning us with drugs. They've got to do it from endless bloody ways. All this stuff in the food, yes, drugs, stuff in the water like fluoride, sugar. A fluoride, rat poison in drinking water, great idea, write that down. Fluoride, officially classified a neurotoxin in world's most prestigious medical journal. What should we do with it? Let's put it in the water. Fluoridation is the greatest case of scientific fraud of this century, if not of all time. Robert Carton, former US Environmental Protection Agency scientist. Dr. Dean Burke, 34 years at the National Cancer Institute in America. In point of fact, fluoride causes more human cancer death and causes it faster than any other chemical. And they want it in the water. Now, that would be madness under any criteria, but like I say, there's method in the madness, because it's bringing about what they want. And what fluoride does is calcify the pineal gland and makes it receive and transmit in a fundamentally less efficient and flawed way. Coincidence? No chance. They are looking all the time at the way we decode reality. Dementia can be caused by aluminium, says Professor. Now, what could possibly be a source of aluminium adding to the dementia explosion? In chemtrails. And you look at all the chemicals that we use that is being taken in all the time. I was in the supermarket a few years ago, 2 years ago maybe, and I was looking at this bottle, because I was researching this stuff for a book, and I had this list of bloody things which were basically, don't do this, don't do that, if this happens, see a doctor, if this happens, don't do that, don't do that. Oh my God, it was washing up liquid. We're being toxified everywhere. And these toxins are actually energetic distortions. They are distorted information fields in the waveform fabric, which we decode through as what we call chemicals, but they are distortions in the energetic fabric which distort the hologram. And all this is to weaken the target population. Then, going on from this, Agenda 21, as was mentioned in their own documents, it's about culling the population. This is the Georgia Guidestones, which came out of nowhere. They call it America's Stonehenge. And on there, it calls for 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. 500 million. Look at the population of the world today. Draft copy of the UN Global Biodiversity Assessment calls for the world's population to be reduced to 1 billion. That Nick Rockefeller, the population of the world is going to be halved. And when you look at the map of just America, my goodness me, how are they going to create that without lots of people disappearing? So all these different ways are being used to target the human organism for many and various ways, not least radiation. And these people have been into eugenics all the way through. People don't realize, but the Rockefeller family funded a whole floor of a German university for Ernst Rudin, Hitler's race purity expert. They sent eugenics experts over to Germany to show them how to do it. And this is Planned Parenthood. That Dr. Richard Day, 1969, was an executive of this. It was set up as a eugenics organization to cull the lesser races by this lady, Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, who was a lover of H.G. Wells, who was connected to the Fabian Society. These are some of her lovely quotes. The most merciful thing that a large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. We do not want the world to go out, the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. She was targeting Jews. She was targeting Orientals. And of course, when Hitler did his thing, they had to kind of change the language. So Planned Parenthood went from a overt eugenics organization to a covert eugenics organization hiding behind population control. And one of the people who headed Planned Parenthood was Mr. Gates' father. He talks about it. He used to have conversations about it. Doesn't he fund a lot of vaccines in Africa? Doesn't he fund the introduction of GMO in Africa? I think he does. This man is everywhere. Vaccinations, climate change, weather manipulation, population control, GMO. And then to give you an idea of what's kind of happening in terms of population control and another angle on it, biggest study ever confirms drastic decline in male productive health. They are targeting male sperm counts as a population control reduction mechanism. Now, this story is so crazy, you'd think it is crazy, but it's actually true. Well, first of all here, the third generation of rats fed GMOs are sterile. They can't have babies, okay. But this is called the epicyte gene. And this company, they developed this gene which kills male sperm. And if women have it, when sperm enters them, it kills it. And obviously, if it enters a male, it kills it anyway. And they genetically manipulated this gene into corn. And then DuPont and Monsanto took it over. So why would anyone want to promote corn that made you sterile? These people would, for reasons I'm talking about. The other thing of Agenda 21 is to get rid of old people once they can no longer serve the system as a slave. All over the world we're seeing this. The Liverpool care pathway in this country. They call it something else now, it's just the bloody same. Take away drugs and food and everything, make them die quicker. There you go, 1 in 100 patients on death list, GPs told. Frailest to be asked to choose end-of-life care. Get rid of the old people. They can't serve us anymore, they're too bloody frail. Get rid of them, that's what they say. Do you want me to let you die? Question nurses on home visits are told to ask elderly patients they've just met. This is happening all over the place, and it's all into Agenda 21. And then there's the war zone called Planet Earth. They are devastating the environment of the planet, be it rainforests or whatever. And Monsanto, they want to replace all natural crops, seed varieties worldwide with GMO. They're introducing GMO grass, GMO trees, GMO frickin' everything. They're even introducing genetically modified insects and putting them out there. They are changing the nature of our reality. They are modifying it so it suits them. Monsanto's Roundup Ready GMO grass about to be approved and fed to cattle. And what they're doing is they're increasingly making the planet inorganic. They're turning it into their world. This is what we're seeing. Trees and plants the world over are dying because of toxic soil, water, air, and chemtrails. They're killing the planet, and they're killing it. Look at this. Bees pollinate at least a third of the human food supply, and they're killing them in unbelievable amounts now. Honeybee population collapse continues. Nearly 1/4 died over the winter. Death rates unsustainable. And what does the Environmental Protection Agency do in America? They expand the use of bee-killing pesticides. Why? Because it's systematic. They are killing life because they are an inversion of life, and they want to turn this world into theirs and fuse the two together. Half the world's wild animals have disappeared in 40 years. This is something of beauty. I must destroy it. The global death cult. This is what's behind this. It's not ad hoc. This is the world of the natural order. This is the world of the archontic distortion, and they're pushing this world into that one before our bloody eyes. Archon wars, well, yeah. There you go. We are the Rothschilds. Governments make our tea. We see governments declaring war. They declare war on behalf of the hidden hand. All these organization, including Rothschild Zionism, which is actually not Jewish people. Rothschild Zionism is a secret society created by the Rothschilds, controlled by the Rothschilds, and they run Israel as their bloody fiefdom. This is not about Jewish people. It's not about Israelis, if they only realized it, and a lot of people do. This is about using Israel. This is about using Israel and the Israeli people in general, though most of them don't know it, but some do, as just a tool to create mayhem in that part of the world. I mean, you know, the truth is, and this has come from people like Shlomo Shland, the professor of history at Tel Aviv University, what we call Jewish people, particularly what they call Ashkenazi Jewish people, they have no historical connection to Israel. They come from another people, not least they're from Khazaria around the Caucasus Mountains. All this story about going back home, it's a creation of the propaganda. Not by them, they've bought the propaganda. They believe it, most of them, but the Rothschilds are behind the propaganda. The Balfour Declaration in 1917, which said that the British Empire supported a homeland for Jewish people in Israel, Palestine as it was called, was a letter to Lord Rothschild, who funded the Round Table Secret Society, from Lord Balfour of the government, who was an inner circle member of the Round Table Secret Society. It was a letter between two members of the same secret society. And this systematic destruction of the Palestinian people was planned from the bloody start. And because, we stand by and see the psychopathic mind do that to Gaza, and we have this genetic breakthrough for critics of Israel. You're not allowed to criticize Israel, or you're a racist, or you're this, or you're that, or the other. And organizations like the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, which was a Rothschild creation to target anyone getting too close to the truth about them and their networks, just brand anyone a frickin' racist if they challenge what Israel is doing. I don't give a shit. To learn who rules over you, simply look at who you're not allowed to criticize. Voltaire, exactly. The most racist creed on earth at its extreme brands the rest of the world racist. I beg to bloody differ. This is the US and Israel. This is the special fricking relationship. And there's a reason why. And it's not to do with Jewish people. It's to do with these people, the Rothschilds. They control the US, they control the UK, they control the European Union, and they control Israel. Why would these fiefdoms of the Rothschilds criticize another fiefdom of the Rothschilds? This is why Israel gets away with mass fricking murder over and over again that any other country, bar America and Britain, would not. Now, what the American military have done is carve up the world into commands, the arrogance of it. They've got a North Command to internally control North America, South America, AFRICOM, CENTCOM, which is the Middle East, dealing with all this ISIS stuff now, PAYCOM, whatever they bloody call it, EUCOM. But actually, that's not the American military. The American military is merely a tool of the global network. What that is the first forming of the World Army Command structure. So when that is absorbed into the World Army, it will already be in place. That's what it's about. They call it the US government, but it's merely a glove puppet for the global hidden hand. That's why its decisions and policies, like these in this country and other countries, do not benefit the people, they benefit the hidden hand. That's where it's coming from. These people are these secretaries of state declaring war and pushing for war. They're merely tools of this Rothschild and wider network. I've said here, another 30,000 years of this, and we'll have buried all the people we've killed. And 30,000 years, it's probably a bit optimistic, because here's an article, a study, US regime has killed 20 to 30 million people since World War II. But they're the good guys. Always money for war. Always money for war no matter what. Why? Because it's serving the agenda, and that's where the money goes. Mark Twain, God created war so Americans could learn geography, right? Here we go. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria. This is Homs in Syria before they funded the rebels. This is Homs now. This is Libya under Gaddafi. This is Libya under American democracy. And what is that? It's the Archon world. They have left catastrophe in Libya. War is also feeding the self-aware distortion with exactly the energy it wants. And these wars are part of an ongoing process where they're picking off country after country and just using a different excuse most of the time to kid people, totalitarian tiptoe, that these invasions are not connected. They're all connected. It's part of a plan for the takeover of the Middle East and what they call Eurasia. The time of 9/11, you had the Project for the New American Century, the so-called neocons, and they produced a document in September 2000 which said that they wanted to attack a series of countries. Most of those countries now are already attacked and invaded. And they said that to bring about that process of transformation, these attacks on all these countries and the takeover, the process of transformation is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. 1 year to the month, 9/11. What happened? That was used as the excuse to invade those bloody countries. And this is a guy called General Wesley Clark. In a television interview in 2007, he described what happened to him immediately after 9/11. He was in the Pentagon, and one of the generals told him that they were going to attack Iraq, and it was a collaboration between the government and the Project for the New American Century. They were going to invade Iraq. A few weeks later, in fact 6, he went back, and he said to the same general, why haven't we invaded Iraq? What's going on? And this is what he quoted the guy as saying. Sir, it's worse than that. The officer pulled up a piece of paper off his desk and said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. The plot, aim of the plot was they wanted to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, and make it under our control. So to hide that, they had to make excuses. So Afghanistan, 9/11. Iraq, weapons of mass destruction, never existed. Libya, he's killing his own people. Actually, he's responding to the rebels that you have funded, armed, and trained to shoot at him. And then what we'll do is we'll move those rebels over to Syria, and we'll say he's killing his own people. And so we have the perception deception to hide all that. It's a movie. And the perception deception is so profound that the inversion can be believed by the mass of the population. These are the countries attacked by bombing, sabotage, or attempted government overthrow since World War II. Iran, nil. America. Public perception, Iran, dangerous. America, savior, good guy. There you go. Each of the 45 black dots is a US military base around Iran, but Iran is the one threatening the US. Perception, deception. It's not a matter of what is true that counts, but what is perceived to be true. And this is what they are targeting. People like Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jimmy Carter's former National Security Advisor, who was one of the creators of the Trilateral Commission in that network with the Club of Rome and the Bilderberg Group. He said in a book a long time ago, if you want to know what they want, read Brzezinski's books, that this is the target area, what they call Eurasia. Because if you control that, you control the world. And what we're seeing, whether it's Ukraine or all these countries around here, they're all related to Eurasia and the takeover of Eurasia. Now, Albert Pike, who was an up there bloody mega Freemason in America in the 19th century, one of the co-creators of the Ku Klux Klan, nice man, he wrote a letter. Some people say it's a fake, except it's turning out to be incredibly prophetic. A letter to another network Illuminati, as they call it, operative called Giuseppe Mazzini, in I think it was 1871. And he talked about 3 world wars. He described the First World War, happened, described the Second World War and how that would lead to the creation of what he called political Zionism, Israel. And then he talked about a Third World War, which would, as he said, take advantage of the differences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. This Third World War was designed to come out of the Middle East. And Albert Pike said that at the time of the Third World War, they would unleash the nihilists. A nihilist, one definition of nihilist is someone who rejects all theories of morality, which of course fits ISIS, ISIL, whatever they're called today, made in America, made in Israel, and to a large extent made in the UK. They're the same bunch. They started out as Al-Qaeda, which was created as Robin Cook, the former British Foreign Secretary, before he died, very soon before he died, pointed out that Al-Qaeda was actually the creation of the CIA. Al-Qaeda means the base or the database, because it was the database of Mujahideen fighters in Afghanistan, which they got together to fight the Russians in Afghanistan. And it's gone through a series of changes from ISIS, ISIL, Islamic State, trained, funded, and armed by these people to be the enemy that justifies the further invasion and control of the Middle East. This is the process: hidden hand, Pentagon, CIA, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, ISIL, Islamic State. CIA is training ISIS while claiming to be combating ISIS, former CIA contractor. The evidence for this is overwhelming and coming out more and more all the time. They've trained these people, they've armed these people, and a lot of the time in Jordan, to create this frickin' mayhem problem to which they can offer their solution, which is what they're doing now, and it's nothing like what they want to do. This is why you find terrorist leaders inside the US aid tents in these countries. This is why you find John Rothschild go for McCain with these people they call terrorists in these countries like Syria. And this is al-Baghdadi. He is the supreme leader of ISIS, and he's the supreme leader of the world. I think you're a very naughty boy myself. ISIS joke fraud. I'm the mysteriously elusive one because you mustn't know who I really am. And look, he's got the watch. Flash freaking watch. Nice man from CIA. Hey! Wardrobe! Continuity. What are you bloody doing? You left the freaking watch on. They'll see it. There you go. He got a good number though. There you go. He made a few quid there. It's a freaking joke. It's a joke. I'm not saying this is true, but some people are suggesting that actually al-Baghdadi is this guy, Simon Elliott, or Elliot Shimon, a Mossad agent, and he's been seen, this guy, with McCain, which doesn't surprise you. And, you know, people might find that far-fetched. Why would they put somebody in to do that? Because they're creating an illusion. And this is Adam Gardan. The FBI announced he was an Islamic terrorist that we all should be afraid of. Ooh. But who did he turn out to be? He turned out to be Adam Perlman. grandson of the former head of the Rothschild-created Anti-Defamation League. It's all an illusion. You ought to just put on an Arab hat and they think you're Arabic. And this lady, she's got 2 bullshit bloody detectors she has. She could have 4. This is this lady, Rita Katz, who claims that she found one of the beheading videos on the internet. Well, how frickin' lucky. This is an organization, SITE, I call it SHITE, I think it's accurate, SITE, Search for International Terrorist Entities, that was putting out bin Laden videos long after he'd bloody died in 2001. And she is an Israeli Mossad front person, and so's SITE. And it's all part of the propaganda. And this stuff is fake. I am not saying for a second that these people weren't killed. I don't know that. I wouldn't dream of saying that because I don't know that. But for sure, these beheading videos are a freaking fake. And when this was pointed out with the first one by the alternative media, suddenly video experts in the mainstream were coming out and saying the same because it was so freaking obvious. And the idea is to create maximum horror, so therefore maximum effect, because the more we are horrified, the more we will support what they want to do in the Middle East to protect us from the enemy they have created. This is the mind game. I don't want another war, but we can't stand back and let Islamic State do what it's doing. That's what it's all about. And then there's these people. They've been radicalized. They've been vegetabilized from where I'm looking. They're going out, Islamic State and all that stuff. They've been played like a violin by the very people they think they're opposing. Top US military official admits our Arab allies are funding ISIS. What happened to those allies? They became part of the terror coalition against ISIS. You couldn't make it up. Kerry meets the Saudis. I just wanted to discuss how we stop the terrorists we're both arming. 2011, Kerry, Assad is a very generous man. When it suits him, you go, Assad, he's evil, I condemn him. And this is how it works. It's very simple. We arm people when it suits us, our agenda. We kill people when it suits our agenda. We say this when it suits our agenda. We say the opposite when it suits our agenda. That's the common theme. So he didn't get his Syrian war, unfortunately for him, because people sussed it was a scam, but they're in Syria now because they've scammed the ISIS story, and that's what it's all about. And here is the real reason they're in Syria, to remove him and get around the resistance from the people. It's the totalitarian tiptoe, and here we go. No new war, they said. We've got a new war. We won't bomb in Syria. They're bombing in Syria. This is not about Assad. Let's have a no-fly zone to stop people who haven't got planes. It's about Assad, who has got planes. No boots on the ground. They'll have boots on the ground. We're only keeping the peace. World War III. That's the progression they want. And they want to pull Russia and China into it. It's all part of that Albert Pike scenario. So they're now demonizing Russia. If you look at my books from way back, it was talking about you watch them start to demonize Russia, which is what they're doing now as part of this. And they blame them on bringing that plane down. Hasn't that gone quiet since radar revealed that it was being escorted by 2 Ukrainian jets at the time it went down? And if anyone thinks that that's amazing, well, footage of Ukrainian helicopters firing on its own checkpoint raises questions. They're bombing their own people and then blaming it on Russian separatists. This is how the game works. And that is their focus. That's what they want to take over. Then we have Ebola. It just happens to be in 2 freaking countries where there are US bio-warfare laboratories. Haven't you got enough room in America? And the Centers for Disease Control in America have a patent on the human Ebola virus. There you go, Sierra Leone closes down US bioweapons lab. I bet they did, pretty bloody sharpish. Another foreign news outlet links US biowarfare labs to Ebola outbreak. What a coincidence. ISIS, we must intervene in the Middle East. Ebola, we must intervene in Africa. Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about. And then you've got the public health emergency declared in Connecticut over Ebola, civil rights suspended indefinitely, and all that shit that they can use. And this is what fear does to people. This is a passenger at Washington Airport waiting to get on a plane. This is how the perception deception works. Fear. Make them fear and they'll give you their power. Our complete state. If you look at this structure, that is designed to keep this status quo in place. So what we're seeing is more and more vicious, psychopathic police states around the world, in Britain and in America. They have a kill list in America. He can kill anyone he likes if it's on the kill list. He doesn't have to go through any judicial oversight. He can take anyone off the streets he likes and not have to take them through due process. So and so it goes on. There's almost a law against everything now because they want to tie us into a web like a spider ties a fly with regulations and laws. We've got this outbreak of luminous jackets. They're breeding, I'm sure they are, in the night. They're all over the place, these things. They're like roundabouts in Milton Keynes. They're breeding. And you've got a certain type of mentality in the administration of all this. I am a Dalek, rules must be obeyed, exterminate, inability. You know, they've got little cracks in their head where the bloody computer chip goes in. What are you? I'm a government administrator. I thought you were. There you go. I bet they have no idea what prats they look. But what this is about is the way the police are turning from the police as we knew them systematically, because of Agenda 21 and what I'm talking about, into the military. More and more vicious. Go into YouTube and put in police violence. You'll be there for bloody months. And what they've been systematically doing, I've been saying this for years, is recruiting people overwhelmingly on the basis of personality type, not ability to do the job. That's why the good cops and the good coppers are disappearing and these psychopaths are coming in more and more to replace them. Psychopaths who do this. Psychopaths who do this and face no consequences. Taser tots. Indiana police tase a 10-year-old boy at daycare center. It's madness. Here's a new weapon they're introducing that can blind people for up to 15 bloody minutes. Here's a totalitarian tiptoe there. Tasers for the few, tasers for the many, tasers for all. Guns for specialist officers. First guns on routine patrol. They're having a trial of guns on routine patrol, and then guns for all. That's the totalitarian tiptoe of that one. And this is America now, and these are police. They have a system in America now called 1033, the 1033 system, in which police forces can get so-called surplus military technology and weaponry from the military, the US military, and use it to police the local communities. It's unbelievable. But it's not really, because this is the transformation to the police state to impose Agenda 21. Why does a Florida County Police Department need 18 million Apache Italic helicopters? Answer, Agenda 21. This is what it's moving towards. School cops across Texas receiving surplus military gear. School cops. We're here to protect your freedom. No, you're here to take it away because you are the real domestic terrorists. That's the truth. An extremist, a label used to discredit and marginalize anyone whose opinion is a threat to the state because they figured out how corrupt it is while sustaining a constant sense of fear or alarm in the minds of the public. An extremist, someone who sussed ya. That's what it is. And you can expose war crimes and you go to prison with the key thrown away. You can commit war crimes and you get a Nobel Peace Prize. And this is what the police and law enforcement need to understand. They are part of the 99.9%. And their children and their grandchildren have to live in the world that they are helping to impose on others. And think about this, police officers of this country. This is what's designed to happen. Private security firms are designed to take all of your bloody jobs and take over the policing of the people via corporations. Let's go this way. Oh, there you go. A time to choose. Morality, doing what is right regardless of what you are told. Obedience, doing what you are told regardless of what is right. Which way we go there decides on the world we're going to live in. Every great atrocity is the result of people following orders. It's time for the police to realize that they're designed to live in this world as well. This world of constant surveillance for their families and their children. Where they've got drones now that can take down your login codes and your bloody mobile phone. It's madness. You've got these bloody surveillance bloody insects flying around now. It's madness. These people are mad. And Bill Gates, for it is he, 5 billion plan. Let's put a camera in every classroom. Bill Gates spends 1.1 million fitting students with their mood bracelets to see if their teachers are boring. God, it's going on. Schools installing facial recognition systems to identify troublemakers. Get them ready for it. Bill passes allowing police to shut off all cell phones remotely. All internet activity now monitored by pre-crime algorithms. This is UPS. Every time he moves his arse in that seat, someone back at headquarters knows he's done it. And I'm not kidding. If he backs it up, they know he's backed up. If he walks out, he knows he's not sitting there. This is what's planned with these black boxes they're putting in cars increasingly. So everywhere we go is tracked. EU to bug every car in the UK with tracker chips, which they can't stop. This big brother technology. They've got cameras to go into cars that are constantly monitoring your mood so you don't get caught in road rage. FBI will have up to 1/3 of Americans on biometric database by next year. On and on it goes. FBI plans to enlist local cops nationwide in massive DNA collection scheme. And once they have your DNA, they have your unique transmission frequency from that DNA. Surveillance cameras will soon be reading your lips. Lie detection for benefit claimants. Michelle Obama to high school students, monitor your parents for thought crime. Now, all that is to protect us from terrorists. You having a bloody laugh? That is the fast unfolding global police state of Agenda 21 to impose the society where there are less than 1% have total control over everybody else. That's what's unfolding before our eyes. And this is the point. All these dots are connected. It's the same. People say you see a conspiracy everywhere. I don't. I see one conspiracy with loads of different expressions of itself. They're stealing our kids with more and more excuses to take children from loving parents through secret fricking courts. 10,000 kids a year are now taken from parents in this country. A vast, vast number of them without merit and without reason. Children stolen by the state needlessly, causing utter misery in one of Britain's most disturbing scandals. Absolutely. That family that took that lad from the cancer unit in that notorious bloody Southampton hospital, they were warned that if they didn't stop asking questions about the treatment, which was shite, then they'd have their children taken away, the child taken away rather, till he was 16. This Cinderella law they've introduced is an excuse to take more and more children away from loving parents. Stop the emotional abuse of children. Parents who fail to show love could face prison. This lady, Erin Pitsey, is absolutely right. Why this law against emotional cruelty could turn every parent into a suspect. Who actually decides what that is? The frickin' state does. They're looking for more and more excuses to take children away. Australia government moves to quickly pass laws to sterilize electroshock and restrain children without parental consent. The Obama youth movement and the seizing of American children. It's happening everywhere. And there's this bloody idiot, batshit crazy, absolutely. Fine parents who don't read to their children, says Ofsted head, and he wants to punish those who miss school events. Richard Day, schools will become the hub of the community, take over control of kids. Licensing parents being considered by politicians and philosophers. And this is what it's leading to. This is what was talked about by Aldous Huxley in Brave New World, creating a situation where parents had nothing ever to do with procreation and children. Natural reproduction has been done away with, and children are created, decanted, and raised in hatcheries and conditioning centers. From birth, people are genetically designed to fit into one of 5 castes, which are further split into plus and minus members and designed to fulfill predetermined positions within the social and economic strata of the world state. And we're seeing that movement, that totalitarian tiptoe towards that. Political correctness, that's not about protecting minorities from abuse. That's about shutting people up so that they can't criticize anything without being accused of something. It's about silencing people's opinions. Big Brother's here now. Big Brother's here now. Are we going to let him stay? No, we frickin' aren't. Now, let's just got to pull this now into deeper in the rabbit hole. The AWAKEN matrix, perception control. Control the sea and you control the fish. And that's what this is all about. The energetic field, the cosmic internet, is being polluted on an unprecedented scale by electromagnetic information fields technologically generated. It's coming from broadcast towers, mobile phone towers, Wi-Fi, mobile phones, smart meters, all these things. It's absolutely polluting the very energetic sea that we live in with technologically generated, distorted information fields. And there's a reason for this. They are, I put it here, hacking the hack. I'll say what I mean by that in a second. So anything that says smart in front of it is basically designed to talk and communicate with everything else with smart in front of it. It's the big Agenda 21 code word. Smart, smart this, smart that. Smart drugs use microchips to deliver them. Smart meters are there to put an electromagnetic information field into every home and business, which not only can take information from there to a central point, it can deliver information within the frequency band of human brain activity, and it can insert thoughts and perceptions from a distance. That's the idea. Google Nest now talks to washing machines, lights, and even your car. The idea is to create this global grid, which is basically a sub-reality. It's hacking the hack. It's one level from the fake reality. We're now into a technologically generated fake reality, and thus we are even another step, a big step, from connection to infinite awareness. And this is why Google is Wi-Fiing the entire Earth by putting up 180 satellites to put wireless information fields everywhere. It's part of creating this sub-reality, which I'll come to as we go into this final section here. And through entrainment, they can entrain the human organism to tune in, even if they're not in the frequency to start with, and feed them with information and perceptions. These light bulbs, which have and are being by law replacing the ones we had before, are actually shite. Well, most of them are. These are frickin' shite to start with. But it doesn't matter, because that's not what they're there for. They are information transmitters into every home, every business. And that's why they don't just discourage these that have worked perfectly well. They're banning them by law. My flat is full of these frickin' things. I'll have to reincarnate to use most of them, I think. Once I knew they were going to be banned. Hey, target acquired, we've got the bulb. Repeat, we got the bulb. It's madness. But you look at the radiation these things generate and the damage that will do to people and is doing to people. And they've got mercury in them. When they break, mercury is released. And when you look at what the the official things say you should do, it's everything but evacuate the frickin' building. So they've got nothing going for them, but it doesn't matter, because they are transmitters of information. In the 70s and 80s, the Russians were transmitting a signal into America They called it the woodpecker signal because it went rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat. And these guys, particularly this guy, Dr. Robert Beck, he studied this woodpecker signal to see how it was working. And this is what he told a Psychotronics Association conference back in 1979. He said that human subjects exposed to certain extremely low frequency waves, which is what we're talking about here, field patterns, reported sensations of uneasiness, depression, and foreboding. He said that he had measured the Russian woodpecker signal and found that it was acting like gangbusters right in the window of human psychoactivity. It was coming in on the frequency of human brain activity. The signal was permeating power grids in the United States. It was being picked up by power lines, re-radiated, and it was coming into homes on the light circuits. Now, it was doing that on light circuits that weren't created for that purpose. These new systems, the smart systems, are created to most efficiently deliver information in that way. When I started saying that, people were saying, that's bloody crazy. Oh, really? Well, now people are getting the internet all over their house through their electrical system. Because electricity is a vehicle for delivering information. And how about this? This is this very week. From Wi-Fi to Li-Fi. This is a British high-tech startup has invented a light bulb fitting capable of acting as the equivalent of a wireless network in the home. And this is what these smart systems are designed to do. They're sub-realities. They're 24/7 mind control systems. We need to wake up for it. This guy again, Michael Pessinger, said, for the first time in our evolutionary history, we have generated an entire secondary visual, densely complex environment, an electromagnetic soup that essentially overlaps the human nervous system. That's what it's supposed to do, for reasons I'll come to. What they're doing, this archontic force, is they're changing the atmosphere, changing the sources of information that we are receiving, both down here and higher up in the atmosphere, because they are changing our world into their world. And they are like cyborgs, what you would call transhuman. And that's what transhumanism is all about, as I'll come to. They're changing the atmosphere. HAARP can virtually lift part of the atmosphere. You can make it move, do things, one of the creators said. And so what they're doing is they are changing the energy sea into an atmosphere and an information environment which suits them and further represses humans' ability to expand consciousness into the wider awareness. They're filling the atmosphere. This is what Fukushima was about. No way that was a freaking accident if people look at the evidence. Look, this is the smokestack from a small nuclear explosion. This is the smokestack from the explosion at Fukushima. It was created to release phenomenal, staggering amounts of radiation because they're changing the atmosphere. And who created nuclear power? I know for a fact, almost from the horse's mouth, the Rothschilds. So they're changing the atmosphere into the Archon world more and more. Do you know that the technological radiation in our atmosphere now, we're living in, is millions and millions and millions of times what it was 50 years ago. They're also, through that same situation, changing the frequency within this atmosphere between the ionosphere down to the surface. This is why all these whales and dolphins are beaching themselves. Their radar's changing. They've lost their sense of direction because the way the energy field is changing. They're creating this sub-reality. And it's a technologically generated one, and they want to create this reality technologically between the ionosphere and this surface where we live. And chemtrails are part of that because it is a medium for delivering what they want. So they're hacking the hack and taking us to another level. They're trying to take us to another level distant from awakened infinite consciousness. Because you can have that situation, but if you take this technological level further forward, it's even more challenging to access infinite awareness from this reality. People say, why would they destroy their own planet? We're living on a planet as if we had another one to go to. Well, what if This planet don't suit them in terms of its atmosphere and its frequency, and so they're changing it to make it like home. That's what we're frickin' seeing. And this is what transhumanism is all about. Transhumanism is about putting bits of technological kit into your body so you interact with technology. The idea is the technology then becomes your master and it becomes your sense of everything. You become a slave of the technology. I've been talking for years, as people who've gone through these years with me will know, about the microchip agenda, and now they're openly talking about the microchip. This is an electronic tattoo. It's one of the stepping stones to it. New medical microchips to be implanted by 2017, delivering drugs, routine birth control through wireless communications. Is choice lost? Microchips to administer drugs, replace pills. Microchips will be implanted into healthy people as soon as you think. Australian man who has a microchip inserted into his hand so that he can do more with the iPhone 6. Well, I hope he sticks it up his arse, because that's where his brains are. You see, like I said earlier, if you can access what the projected agenda is and nothing intervenes to stop it, you can very accurately predict the future. That's why I've been talking for years about the microchip agenda, and now we're there. Well, I hope now we're there and people can see it. A number of people will also stick their iPhone up their arse and start to open their bloody minds and see what we can do about it. Computer chip modeled after brain architecture. This is all part of taking over the body. Now, as idiots go, this guy is major league. Kevin Warwick, a professor at Reading University, one of the great proponents of the transhumanist agenda. If a machine is passing down signals that keep you completely happy, then why not be part of the matrix? Because I do not have any wish to be a freaking idiot like you, Professor Warwick. Now, I mentioned earlier about Monsanto being the most evil corporation on the planet. It's got big competition. It's got big competition in something called cuddly Google. This, serving the system since the day we started, and you've seen nothing yet. This is a venomous corporation. What happened is this lady, Regina Duggan, was the director of DARPA. DARPA is so dark it cannot be seen. It is so dark. There is no light that can show it. It is so dark and it's so sinister. It is the technological development arm of the Pentagon, and it's creating all this transhumanist stuff to control people. And she then made a most amazing career move. She moved from director of DARPA to a top executive of Google. As career moves go, that would seem to be strange unless you know the agenda, because Google is massively part of the transhumanist agenda. They've just bought Boston Dynamics, a DARPA-funded robot corporation. They're big time into robots, and this is what they plan. Bye-bye humans, into the transhuman, where the technology rules, not infinite awareness and consciousness. And they're preparing us for this transhumanist kit, transhumanist shit, through things like Google Glass. Get it part of the body. Get them used to it. Get them used to it. There you go, smartwatch. Get them used to it. Get them used to it. And everybody thinks this is random. I love this story. It said, how Google goggles and Project Glass make Star Trek technology a reality. This stuff comes out as sci-fi when they actually know it's coming. It's part of the introducing of it to us. It's why you see it. This is why we have the Borg, the Archons, the transhumans. That's what they want us to become. My sat-nav said this way: addiction to technology. That's the idea. Einstein said, I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. You're no longer a child, a glorious expression of infinite creation. You are a computer terminal on a global mind hack. That's what's unfolding before us, being pushed by the mainstream media, never offline, modifying mankind. It's great how Apple is invading our bodies. Look at this, freaking computer in the skin. How transhumanist can you get? Wearable technology for the skin. Oh yeah, it's fashion now. at the end of this road, I started out with my iPad, then Google Glass, then my Apple Watch, and onto the microchip, and then next came. And this is what Huxley said: people will come to love their oppression, to adore the technologies that undo their capacity to think. And that's what they're for. If you take the human organism into a technological level of control, the ability of that to access that becomes almost unimaginable. That's the idea. I had the vaccines, drugs, GMO, fast food, Wi-Fi, smart meter, smartphone, Google Glass, fluoride and sun cream, and I'm perfectly fine. I don't know what you're going on about. And this is part of the DARPA and almost certainly Google agenda. The idea is to replace human troops with robot troops to keep the masses under control. They're developing them. It's no good saying they're not. They're developing them. There's videos of it. All DARPA stuff. Artificial intelligence could co-pilot future combat jets, Navy official. Exactly. Robots could learn how to herd humans like sheep, study. That's the idea. Killer robots to be debated at the UN. This is what's going on while Simon Cowell's on the frickin' screen. Introducing Alsight, the slightly scary CCTV network completely run by artificial intelligence. The idea is rule by machine, which brings into focus even more how accurate, and why was it accurate, that Matrix movie, where the Matrix was controlled by machines. Artificial intelligence. What did the Gnostics say about the archons? They're like cyborgs, a robotic race that can imitate but not innovate. They're turning humans into them. That's what transhumanism is all about. Computer terminal humans is what they're creating. The internet is designed to be a technological collective mind. That's why they're connecting everything to the internet, everything to Wi-Fi, even your fridge, because it's designed to control everything. When you look at the internet, it's just like an electronic universe. It's an information system, and it can deliver information like a reality. And the Gnostics said of the archons that they were about counter mimicry. They were like counterfeit spirits, they called them, where they could technologically mimic reality. And that's what they're doing with these transhumanist systems and the internet. Saw this movie Transcendence, where Johnny Depp, people haven't seen it, he knew he was dying and they wanted to keep his mind, so they downloaded his mind onto the internet, and the internet became conscious. I'm seeing scientists now saying, could the internet wake up? Who says it hasn't already? And what happened was that he, through his mind, the internet became conscious and then started dictating all these machines and all these gadgets and what happened that were connected to the internet. That's the idea, to create this sub-reality based on technology. Now, what is that but a hive mind, a technological hive mind? Matrix connecting humans to the hive mind. A virtual reality within a virtual reality, the hack within a virtual reality, the original reality. And it's no accident that in that Charney project, this entity in that 5-year period and the 20,000 questions included this point. It was said, humans are more evolved spiritually than the reptiles, but they suppress humans with their technology. Their God is their technology. And that is the world we are seeing unfolding around us every single day. One final point before we have a break. They cannot create this reality because they cannot create from nothing. They have to get us to create it for ourselves. And this is where putting subconscious information, implants into the subconscious is so important. And that's what this is all about. Preemptive programming. When you look at the last, 15 years, there has been movie after movie after movie that has portrayed the very society that these people want to make our society. One after the other. Of course, we have the Hunger Games, but there's Equilibrium, classic one. We have Divergent, we have X-Men Days of Future Past, one after the bloody other off the conveyor belt. And what they're doing is planting that reality into the subconscious to make us familiar with it. So as it unfolds and through our subconscious we help to create it once it's in there, we are not so aghast with it, well some of us are, because we're somehow familiar with it. And the familiarity has been put in to a large extent at the subconscious level by the endless movies and television portrayals of the very society they want to impose. So, before we have a break and then get into raising this frickin' vibe to beyond the archons, is it a lost cause? Is it a lost cause? Is it a lost cause? No fricking way. It's a lost cause. It's a lost cause if it went on being unfolded before us while we didn't recognize what it was. We're waking up to it. And we can decode this world and we can decode another world. It's a choice in the creation of our reality that we have the power to intervene on if only we realize we have that power instead of thinking we're Ethel Jones and Arthur Smith. We can paint another picture and end this shit. We have the power to do it. And we'll get into that after we've had a break for half an hour. Thank you very much. Thank you.